Hello, welcome to the Round 10 review after the Blues get done by the Sydney Swans. 9 goals, 862 to 11 goals, 1278. 16-point margin at the SCG in a loss that reminded me of the way we were losing early in the season. In that first month, very disappointing and frustrating way to lose in a game that I thought the Blues started having some change in momentum away from home, but ultimately the result was the same and the way it ended was the same, and we end up wildly enough getting beaten by the exact two individuals that beat us in the same way, seemingly every time at the SCG. And that's the part that makes the loss the most frustrating and disappointing. You continue to get beat by what you know beats you. So I was never truly confident about this game. I might have said it throughout the week, conservatively 16 times. I was hopeful. I was not confident. Last week was a win, and with every win, there is the hope that the win starts a bit of momentum. Having said that, team had won 4 of the last 5, but ultimately it was all about Friday night in round 10. I thought we were well positioned to go there and get a job done in Sydney. Got news late in the week that De Koning wouldn't play due to the larynx. Got good news that McGovern pulled up okay enough to play. But yeah, I really felt throughout the week, I was never totally confident in what I was hearing and reading about the Sydney Swans. I found myself going on their forums and trying to get a pulse check. Their fans were very frustrated and calling the coach soft at selection and certain players should be dropped, and very similar to what we do on the Carlton side. It's actually quite interesting and quite fascinating how similar all supporters are. But there was not a lot of confidence coming from the Sydney Swan side of things. And fair enough, they had a poor performance the week before and their record wasn't great. But I was never really confident. I always felt that the Swans were going to be giving us their best shot last night. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I really felt for at least a half. I really did feel like Carlton dominated that game or dominated play and got what was important right. And then whether it was a quarter and a half or the complete second half, yeah, just a capitulation. There was someone that came on the fan cams in the live chat last night. And he's like, the classic bed shitting. It was typical. I want to go through a series of events of last night throughout the game. And mentally, I did this exercise this morning when I read through them all. Mentally, in your mind, as you're hearing what moments I'm bringing up, I want you to compartmentalize what do you think was in our control and what do you think was out of our control. Because I think in that, it set a story. As I read through each moment again, because what I do when I watch games, particularly interstate, if I'm at home, I take more notes than usual. Just moments that I think are critical to the story of the game. But look, game started, I thought, well. I think the first quarter, but for the scoreboard, was all Carlton. In particular, the things that were in our control. So we get a goal for Patrick Cripps, the 50-metre penalty against George Hewitt for apparently being in the protected zone. Haven't called that for weeks. All of a sudden, it's a priority. I don't think that's out of our control. Luckily, Amadi misses the shot. We see, and I thought this was a theme as well of the night, the entries to Harry and Charlie, I thought at particular moments really did improve. We really started finding them on the lead. Like this one, Cooper Lord, beautiful start to the game, by the way. Beautiful kick to Harry on the lead. He shanks it completely. So I'm thinking that's in our control. Mistake. Sam Walsh slips, miss handball, Ball bounces, Warner, goal. Punished. Corey Durden hits Harry Mackay beautifully on the lead. He kicks a goal. That was a nice play. I found how we were moving the ball. There was a bit of efficiency about it in the way that we weren't messing about with getting it moving forward. We were trying to get quick entries. I thought seeing Lewis Young play that role in the forward line again was a positive. I didn't think Blakey had much of an influence in the game in the first half, really for the majority of the game until the fourth. I thought that was a tick. And unfortunately for the second week in a row, we had to move Lewis Young back to defence and then kind of move him back forward and disrupt the flow of that role. Jack Silvani slips over top of the goal square for a Joel Hamlin goal. What do you do? And then towards the end of the quarter, Silvani hits up Curnow on the lead, who misses his shot on goal. We were dominating at this point with just nothing to show on the scoreboard. Beautiful play, Pitternet tap directly down to Cripps for his second goal. Jack Silvani takes the 7th intercept mark for the team in the first quarter. And, the discussion around our defense and, are we too tall? Are we not? Well, when we're winning the aerial battle like that, it looks great. When we're not winning the aerial battle and the opposition smalls are starting to take control, it doesn't look great. Somewhere in between is the right way forward. I don't know what that is, but it looked awesome in the first quarter. And then I thought the 1% plays were in our favour. I thought the Blues were really up for the task. There was that passage of play in the first where Chera just dives for the ball and just gets it going forward. Lewis Young had clean hands to Hewitt, who hit Charlie on the lead, who ends up kicking that goal. But the brilliance of the individuals of Warner and Heaney, who were clean, and they find Hayward for his goal. We get to quarter time, 20 inside 50s to 9. We've dominated that area. 4 marks inside 50 to 1. We've tackled 4 times inside 50, I think, as well. Like all the things you just really want to see in terms of, can you dominate territory? Can you generate opportunities? All there, but ultimately up by 6 at quarter time. And I was hoping that it wouldn't come back and bite us, and you'll see that it did. Start of the second quarter, I noticed Jack Silvani moving very gingerly. I don't know when this groin issue happened, but I would hazard a guess it was end of the first, start of the second. This was before the knock, which we'll get to. We get a brilliant goal from Corey Durden due to a Lewis Young tap on. And again, the momentum's building in our game. I really didn't... I don't know how much is going to be spoken about. But the free kick to Isaac Heaney after the umpires called the ball out in the full from Mitch McGovern. So that's out of our control. Like you can't control that. The umpires got it wrong. Horribly wrong. How do you get that so wrong? What are you watching? Like, how do you not see it? How do they not see it? We've got an extra umpire in the field. Boundary umpire. Oh my goodness. Such a bad call. It's not why we lost, but it doesn't help. It does not help the cause in one bit. But ultimately, we pay the ultimate price for it. Walsh with a missed tackle minutes later ends up setting up the Latham shot on goal. Luckily, he missed. Then McInerney bumps Silvani, unsighted apparently, no free kick. And then Chad Warner's paid a free kick against, I think it was Ollie Hollins. So I start getting frustrated that we're just not getting those moments in our favour. But ultimately, I thought, it's footy. The pendulum swings. A few things didn't go our way with the umpiring decisions. In the fourth quarter, in the second half, we'll hopefully get a few back if we just keep, digging in. The game was tied at one point in the second quarter late, and I felt that we should have been up by 3 goals, personally. Harry kicks a huge goal from the boundary line, a set shot, which was, I thought, critical to the momentum going into the half. thought we were losing the ruck battle. I thought Grundy the entire night was just so strong with Pitternet. He had 47 hit-outs to Pitto's 24. Thought Pitto was okay considering it was his first game back, and he's the second choice ruck at this point. He's the backup. He's playing against Grundy, who hasn't had a great year, but he has had a really good couple of weeks, and he's starting to find some form. So we're up by 7 at the half, 40-33, and I thought, needed to be up at least 1 or 2 more goals personally. But I did think that the Blues were up for the fight and up for the task. And I thought I was seeing some really good passages of play. I thought I saw some good things from some young guys like Ollie Hollands and Cooper Lord in the first half. And, I thought it was trending in the right direction. Then we get to the second half. Jack Silvani is off straight away. First piece of footage that you see is he goes to the back of the bench, and then all of a sudden he's icing his groin, and you're like, okay, strap in. Lewis Young goes to defense. Jordan Boyd subbed in. He goes forward. I think they tried to put him on Blakey and play him in that role. Durden played a little bit further up the ground, potentially in the Motlop midfield-ish role. Motlop back to the forward 50. And as we start seeing, there was that passage of play. Jesse gets caught by Sam Wicks. He lost his feet. He slips over. Cripps finds Charlie Curnow on the lead with a beautiful kick. Curnow kicks a ridiculous goal. There might be a handful of players in the league that can kick that goal. And that passage of play is going to give rise to such frustration very shortly. Moments later, after that Charlie Curnow goal, Cripps loses Chad Warner at the defensive 50 stoppage, and Warner kicks the goal pretty much straight away. So it was like a superstar moment for a superstar moment. They cancel each other out. Cooper Lord finds Charlie on the lead with what was, I thought, a beautiful piece of play. So Boyd creates a bit of space, blocks for Charlie, and the timing was perfect. The kick was perfect. And we don't see a lot of that with Carlton this year. It's starting to rear its head, which is a good thing. The way in which we have these set plays, the kick is to the forwards' advantage, is not just completely on their head. And it was a perfect play. Charlie on the lead, takes the mark, sets himself up, takes a breath. He's snapping around the body, and I don't know what goes through his head. He decides he wants to play on, sell candy, and maybe if it comes off, he's a star, and we're all lauding, oh, geez, he's got guts. But it doesn't. And so the goal that he kicked minutes earlier, which was a great goal, and only superstars can do that, you're like, what are you doing? Like, why'd you play on? Like, we've been through this. Charlie, why'd you play on? Charlie, what? Why? I need to understand, why do we rush? Why does it happen? Why did he play on? It's not Charlie's fault, but it is Charlie's fault. Why did he play on? Charlie, why'd you play on? Look, we've done this. We've learnt this lesson. Particularly away, you just take every moment. And it's like at times the guys, for whatever reason, forget how important every single moment of a football match is. It's like they get a bit confident that things are going their way and they can sort of test fate a little bit. So unfortunately, we're sitting here and Charlie's played on again and he's missed it. So everyone is going to say, why'd you play on? And fair. But it was just such a grind of a game. Yeah, it's frustrating because he's a leader. He is a leader. Like he is one of the best players in the team, and he's kicked 3 goals for the night. 3 goals, won. But unfortunately, that moment happens. I thought Adam Chera started to show up. I mean, I thought he was very solid throughout the entire game. But as the game went on in that second half, more and more Carlton players started falling behind from their first half form. Young Cooper Lord started falling behind. Sam Walsh couldn't break the tag. He just couldn't do it for whatever reason. He battled, and he found a minimum standard, but he just couldn't get there. At this point, Cripps, he'd kicked his 2 goals early in the piece, so he wasn't too involved in the game. But Adam Chera just continued to showcase his cleanliness in traffic, particularly in a game where it was evidently so slippery. His cleanliness in traffic and his hardness and his ability to get the contested possession out into space. Then they pay the mark to Isaac Heaney, which earlier in the game they didn't want to pay the mark for a similar situation to Lewis Young because he didn't have control of it enough. But they pay the mark to Isaac Heaney. I've lost my shit at this point. I'm slapping couches. I'm throwing pillows. Losing my mind. Isaac Heaney gets time to pick up the ball, take 2 steps, get tackled, and he's apparently had no prior, but it happened to us. I can't remember exactly who it was. Exact same situation. And they call holding the ball. So, yeah, a few inconsistencies there. We get to the end of the third, and it's... When I look back now, the signs were there. We were getting beaten pretty significantly at clearance, at contested possession, at the things that define when Carlton is on their game. We were getting beaten in those metrics. But I thought because we were in the grind and in the flow of the game that we're on. We're a chance here. And it took all of 3 or 4 minutes in the fourth quarter before I just felt the ominous feeling of the loss coming. Now, Lewis Young goes back to the forward line in the fourth quarter. So the Jordan Boyd experiment there gets changed. Brodie Grundy on the run, goal. Like peak Collingwood Brodie Grundy at the Adelaide Oval on the run, goal. Like what? Not that Grundy's not good enough, but just to see him wind the clock back like that, and great passage of play. And to be fair, he was best on ground, I thought. I mean, Heaney maybe as well, but I really did think over the 4 quarters, Grundy was the best player on the ground and the most influential in his role. So great goal. The Swans, then you just see them start lifting. There's a free kick paid against Charlie Curnow. Warner to Amadi, goal. 48-56 at this point. Ominous signs. But moments. Francis Evans takes a mark, flying with the flight of the ball. Brave mark. Shot on goal. Shanks it. Completely out in the full. They pay the free kick against Walsh to James Jordan. He misses, thankfully. So as you can see now, I mean, the Swans had many opportunities to even blow this game out more than what it was. So for all the things that I'm saying about what's in Carlton's control and what's out of Carlton's control, the same goes for the Swans. Jordan Boyd gets hit in the head, no free kick. This was the first one, not when he actually got concussed. We had absolutely no momentum. Then there's the passage of play with Charlie, and he just gets pinned, holding the ball. I don't know what he was trying to do. Maybe he didn't see something further up the field. He tried to cut the angle. He gets chased down. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if this is happening to your star player and he's failing in the moment to execute and have the control, like, what do you expect? I thought it was a critical moment. Laddams gets a free kick paid to him. Thankfully, they paid advantage. I think it was to Isaac Heaney, who missed this particular shot on goal. And then at this point, it just seemed like every 50-50 call was going against us. So Cripps and Charlie, I think, both try to tap the ball forward into space to run onto it to get the ball moving forward, and they're both called for insufficient intent. And Matthew Richardson makes a good point. We at this point, we may as well just call it last touch rule, because that's the way that they're officiating it now. Carlton are down by 8. We're not wanting boundary throw-ins. We're wanting scores on the board. So I really think that's an interesting conversation, and I'm sure that's going to come up. But at this point, again, it's all Sydney. They have lifted remarkably in the fourth quarter. and we just couldn't do anything about it. Boyd then finds Kerno on the lead, and he owed us one after a couple of mistakes, and he did kick it, to be fair. Moments later, young Matt Carroll, he drops the mark, intercept. The ball bounces so perfectly to Braden Campbell, who runs onto it and kicks a goal. And you just get the ultimate punishment for a mistake to a young lad. I think you encourage him to go for that mark 10 times out of 10. Unfortunately, he drops it, and hopefully he learns from it. And these are the bumps you just got to ride with along the way with these players. And this is what happens when you want to play the kids. You got to, you don't want to play Doc. Fair enough. You play young Matt Carroll, which I thought was fine. But, these moments will happen, and it's unfortunate. George Hewitt gets a shot on goal. Game's still in the balance at this point. He misses, didn't take his opportunity. Then I think one of the last few moments of the game where I thought we might have been a chance, Ollie Hollands, with such composure in the back 50, just waits the kick perfectly to the corridor, and Harry Mackay, who is such a good mark. Such a good mark. He drops a regulation chest mark in the middle of the ground. Couldn't believe it. And then it's game over. Heaney goal ices the game. The Swans, they just completely got the better of the territory battle in the fourth. Amadi kicks another one. Game over. Sydney win. So, did we have opportunities to win the game? Absolutely. And I think that is the most frustrating part. Particularly because it was just the way it was spoken about. I mean, we'll start with the Swans were favoured to win the game. So there's that. So it's not like Carlton were favoured to win the game. But I think when they put themselves in the position in that first half to set it up, and they weren't able to go on with it, that's where the frustration comes from. And when you've got your senior players, your high profile, highly paid senior guys in the forward line, both big boys, making the errors that they make, midfielders making the errors that they make. Yeah, And it was so interesting because on the fan cams last night, 85% of the conversation started with Jesse Motlop, which, I don't think he had a great game, but I found myself having to almost step in and sort of regulate, hang on a minute, you're not blaming this on Jesse. Do I wish Jesse Motlop hit the scoreboard more? Yeah. Do I wish I saw Will White impact and do anything in the game? Yeah. But, Will White and Francis Evans are not first choice players. They're not second choice players. They're actually third choice players. So, and I don't blame them for what happened last night. I blame the entire team. I blame the lack of concentration in critical moments and taking moments for granted. And I blame the immaturity of the group for not standing up when it mattered. That's what I blame. I don't blame the Smalls at all. Do I wish we had more production from the Smalls last night? Yeah, absolutely I do. Wish we did. I mean, I thought Durds was okay. I didn't think Jesse was terrible. But it's semantics. Yeah. So I just thought the conversation was a bit typical Carlton, try and find someone to pin it on. Unfortunately, most of it went to Jesse last night, which I think is just tough. He's not in form. No one can seem to give me a better option at this point. We all watched Ashton play in the VFL. Or actually, no, we didn't. Very few of us seemingly watched Ashton play in the VFL yesterday. We already go into the game with 3 genuinely tall players in the forward line. So I don't think we're bringing in another tall player into the forward line. Carlton are inconsistent. I'm not shocked. I'm just not overly shocked. We saw the inconsistency in the first month of the season. It was season over for a lot of us. So why is it a surprise when we shit the bed in Sydney against the Swans, who had their backs against the wall? I don't know. It's not season over. But it is really just a grind, isn't it? Like, it's just an up and down grind. One week we play okay. We grinded out last week when we had things go against us. We had 2 players on the bench for an entire second half, so rotations are limited, and guys have just got to figure it out. And they found a way to just figure it out last week. And then, this week had a full bench, a full complement of players playing, and just couldn't figure it out. If anything, the Swans are the ones that overcame the adversity more so, because, they go into the game struggling for matchups already with Harry and Charlie. Then the matchups that they have Aaron Francis back there, and he copped a nasty knee to the head, and he was concussed. So, well done to Sydney. Give them their flowers. They were brilliant. And they lifted. They lifted in the fourth quarter when it mattered. And for some reason, we're still waiting for these immaturities in the Carlton senior playing group to iron out. And we're waiting for them to, get better when it matters. It's weird because, the stats will look good for a lot of these senior players, and they can hide behind, Cripps kicked 2, Charlie kicked 3, Harry kicked his 2, but when it really mattered, when the game was up for grabs, they weren't able to execute. And that's where I personally lay the blame. I lay the blame on the senior leaders of this team. They've got to be better. So that's my take, but what about you? How have you slept on last night, and how have you seen the game now that you've thought about it a little bit more? Share with us in the comments below, and we'll go from there and move on next week. And we've got the Giants at Marvel Stadium, 12:30 p.m. next Saturday afternoon. The game moves on, life moves on, and so do we. Go Blues.